Welcome to The Bo Show, the home of faith, family, and freedom. I'm here in Orlando at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, where people of all walks of faith come together to break bread together, share fellowship, and listen to speakers who help the overall mission of faith-centered media. Governor Ron DeSantis kicked off the convention as he has been a governor that has been very proactive when it comes to protecting those who want to practice faith freely, especially during the pandemic. And the conference also featured a very faith-filled speech by Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, who talked about the ways that cultural Marxism has attempted to destroy all sense of worship and faith in America, when in fact America was founded and rooted in a divine purpose. Hawley pointed out that the first nation ever created was biblical, when God called Abraham to form a nation of his people. In this respect, the first nation was a sovereign nation. It was divinely inspired. It had a mission and a purpose. Similarly, when Abraham Lincoln was president, he also believed the United States was a sovereign nation and purpose-filled. He thought God would lead the nation through the turbulent period of the bloody Civil War. Our founders also saw this same divine purpose. So what America represents really is a promise and a fulfillment of what sovereign, inspired nations can do. We became the land of liberty. And just like the Israelites were set free from bondage, America ended the practice of slavery and enshrined the practice of religious liberty so that people of all faiths would worship freely. We celebrate Thanksgiving every November to give thanks to a providential God. We take the holiday of Easter and Christmas to honor the significance of what Christ did. Now, modern culture has tried to destroy that. They secularize every holiday and remove all signs and connotations of the religiosity or spirituality of these holidays. They removed prayer from schools, pointing to the separation of church and state. Court cases arose around whether school coaches could pray at the 50-yard line with their players, and those coaches actually won their cases on religious freedom grounds. The city of Boston removed a Christian flag from its public space, also citing separation of church and state. But the whole point of their civic program was to hoist the flag of a different local group each day, with the statement that the flag was not an endorsement of the group. They just specifically targeted the Christian flag. The High Court ruled that Boston was in error and had no right to remove that specific flag. They had unfairly targeted one religion and one flag. So you see that these decisions are having to go all the way to the Supreme Court because local and state governments have become hostile to religious entities. That means that just to pray and express your faith is now verboten unless you have the courage and the money to take this up to the Supreme Court. Most people don't have the time, the energy, or the money to do that, so they just back down. That's what progressives want to do. They know it will be a legal battle, so they hope you'll just drop it. But these legal victories are proving that when religious freedom is being challenged, oftentimes religious freedom is winning. The whole irony of this is that the practice of religion and faith is a deeply personal practice. It's between you and God. No one should interfere with that, and certainly no government. Most of those who are religious want to just practice their faith freely. Sure, they may want to share their journey with you and hope that they may give you hope and courage and salvation, but it's always a choice. What secular society wants to do is remove that choice. They want to steer the culture away from the possibility of a creator. The doldrums of alcoholism, drug abuse, domestic abuse, depression, mental disorders, gambling, infidelity, and addiction can be mitigated by faith. But rather than steer you to salvation, society would rather you just hyper-indulge. When you see a celebrity come out of the pit of darkness, oftentimes it's the result of them finding their faith. Chuck Negron of Three Dog Night did this. Influencer Black China did it too. But those folks are not going to get the coverage they deserve. Media will bury that and find it boring. But because there is redemption in a life that has been saved, we have to examine the power of prayer. Most people only resort to prayer when it's dire circumstances, when things are bleak, when that bad news comes from the doctor, when you're on your deathbed. But what happens if prayer becomes a practice and a priority? What if prayer could change your daily countenance and outlook? What if taking that time out of your day could change your day and your night? As someone funny once told me, I could use the prayer, and you could use the practice. At this conference, I was able to speak to Mike Lynn, a co-founder of Pray.com, a new app that has revolutionized how people pray. In a world that has become addicted to social media, they have found the balance between digital and spiritual. Your phone doesn't have to be the devil. You can listen to Bible stories at bedtime. You can see videos that bring biblical scriptures to life. You can have a daily devotional, and you can even read the Bible in 1 year. Mike had some very interesting data and revelations about what prayer can do, and it's worth your attention. Here's Mike Lynn of Pray.com. Well, Mike Lynn, thank you so much for being here with me at NRB in the NTD booth. Mike, you co-founded Pray.com in 2016. You met co-founder Steve Gattina at an entrepreneurs conference in Southern California. Tell me what that meeting was like and how it led to Pray.com.
So I was working at Merrill Lynch for 13 years, and so I'm the guy in the suit in the back at a tech conference, which is not something you want to do. You want to be the guy at the t-shirt, and jeans. But I'm sitting in the back of this conference. It's for UCLA, USC entrepreneurs. There are a bunch of panelists. And so they're telling us about their journey being an entrepreneur. And I'm listening in the back, and this really tall guy stands up, and he's got this booming, dynamic voice. And I'm going, who is this guy? Like, this guy is a dynamic speaker.
Yeah.
And everybody's starting to ask this guy questions. And I actually felt bad for the rest of the panelists because they were just kind of being ignored at this point. And I just looked at this guy. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but he went to USC. I went to USC. I'm going to approach this guy after this conference and just be friends with him. He seems like someone I should know.
Yeah.
Then what happened was we became friends. I was working at Merrill Lynch at the time.
Now, were you a believer at the time?
Yeah, I'm Catholic background. So
Okay.
that, for me, that's innate. That was always something that was, who I was. But for Steve, that's not his background. His mom is Jewish, his dad was Catholic,
Right.
and his his grandma used to drag him to church, and so, it wasn't part of something that he was excited about. He kind of liked computers and sports more than he did his faith.
So it's kind of like it's an unlikely thing for both of you, in a way, to come up with this. Well, the idea behind the app is to cultivate a daily routine of prayer as a priority. Why do you think that's so important?
Well, building a daily healthy habit is important in general, right? You don't want to do things that are destructive. So let's find things that are healthy. Good news, prayer is healthy. And not only is it healthy, it actually changes the gray matter density in your brain. It's really unique. So when you pray on a regular basis, the gray matter density in your brain changes, specifically around emotional regulation. So if you think about it, you're training yourself around being more emotionally cognizant. And then it becomes innate. Then you become, I don't need to feel as much anxiety because my brain has changed physically to make me feel better. So a daily prayer practice physically will make you feel better, but also emotionally. You know what happens when you feel better? You're going to treat people better.
Yeah.
And those people are going to treat people better. So daily prayer habits critical.
With the app, you can read the Bible in a year, or you can listen to biblical stories read by some very prominent narrators. As a matter of fact, I've seen them there. Tell me some other ways the app is interactive.
Yeah, so there's video content, right? So if you just want to watch, some content and see what people are saying as well, get our video content. If you want to have an experience where you get to read the Bible and find a story in the Bible that's interesting, we've got a little link that'll click you out to a story, an audio story, that can actually explain the whole story to you in a very cinematic way. Reading the Bible, super important. Also getting a story, a very cinematic experience around the Bible, very important. So when we built Pray.com, we wanted to put you in an immersive experience, a cinematic experience, not just, reading the text, but can the text come to life? And with Steve's background in cinema, he had worked in Hollywood, and he had done aerial production in Hollywood for directors like Michael Bay and the biggest ones. He understood what content needed to be in order to get people interacting with it.
Well, many people, will just not pick up a Bible and read it. And I'm actually curious, do you even know how many Christians have admitted to even reading the Bible? It's probably pretty small.
I don't know, but I understand why. If you read the KJV Bible, which we do have in the app, it's difficult to read.
Yeah.
And so sitting and having a habit where you actually read page by page to page, it can be difficult, which is one of the reasons we actually created a podcast called Bible in a Year. And so we have a podcast, Bible in a Year, and we have Jack Graham on it. And so every single day you get to hear a story in the Bible. So let it be told to you.
So you've digitized it, really.
Yeah.
So you're not picking up the physical book. What kind of numbers are you seeing? Tell me some of the analytics of who's using this app and who's reading the Bible.
Yep. So we have 14 million downloads of our app, and majority is in the United States, but we have people all around the world. Actually, in South Africa, it's some of the biggest numbers we've seen in terms of just out of nowhere. We've had 2 million subscribers just in South Africa, which is incredible.
Yeah.
We created this podcast, BibleInAYear.com. We also created some other podcasts in Q4 of last year. There's already 30 million downloads of those podcasts. So it's an explosive growth for us. And who's using it? we index a little bit more female.
Okay.
A little bit more female, and really ages 35 plus. So it's like moms and grandmas, but ultimately we see younger people using it. Just the way the app functions. You know, younger people are used to snappy pieces of content. Well, our daily prayer is 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, you can get in, you can get out, or if you want to explore more, you can find more.
Well, you know, many Christians might say that we are, you know, overly consumed with our devices, you know, and our social media, but it seems that you've provided an antidote to that, or at least a way of using the digital sphere in a productive way. Is that the goal?
That is. I think, you know, Montana just banned TikTok, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, why did they do it? The content. Like, let's focus on the content. And so for us, we said, having an app isn't a bad thing. What's in it? What is it doing to people? Is it helping them or is it hurting them? And Bible-based content helps people. We know this, you know, we understand this. And people that don't have that background in faith, they're not sure. And I think there's a mindset and there's conversations taking place that kind of vilify, you know, Christians and Christian people. And we should remember, let's go back to the Bible. What do they say? And so that's what we do. We want to give it away to people that are consuming content these days because they're consuming on their phone.
Right.
You know, they're not necessarily picking up a physical book anymore.
I want to go back to just a minute. You talked about some of the analytics of the numbers, the demographics. You said it's not a ton of younger people. You're providing a solution for them. Are you concerned at all that Gen Z and even younger generations are less religious than they ever were before? They're not going to church. I mean, you are providing a solution, but are you concerned that this generation won't even pursue something because of the stigma of what Christianity is?
Yeah. It's a real concern. We don't ignore the fact that the numbers say that younger people are less inclined towards faith than ever been before. But I think that has to do with how pervasive some of the content on other social media sites have been. You know, they don't necessarily promote Christian content. And when you're being told and consumed other types of content, you don't get to experience the benefits of faith-based content, Christian content. And so this is why we built Pray.com, is because we had to make sure that, are we going to be in a spot that other people are consuming content in an app in ways that are short form, medium form, long form content? And so, you know, it was a calling for us to do it. Even though I have no tech background at all, it was very clear to us that, you know, if we continue to do the things we're always been doing, this is what's going to happen. Younger people are going to fall away from it. So I do think as you get older, life becomes more of a reality. You've got so much time. I do think those numbers will change. I mean, you can look at the spectrum of life in general. When you're young, you think you're immortal. So, you know, we understand that younger people are going to think this doesn't help. But when you start having a family, when you start having life moments, you know, Pray.com got started because someone passed away tragically in a plane crash. So when life moments happen, you search for answers. Where are you going to search?
It's that existential question, really. Why am I here and where am I going? What's your perception of the more new age philosophy, like let's say from the yoga mindset, this idea of mindfulness, meditation? Pray.com and what we do when we pray, of course, is admitting there is something bigger than us. But I feel like younger people are more inclined to go meditation, Zen, yoga, mindfulness, presence. How do you convert those people who are willing to open their mindfulness to the idea that prayer works and that there's something bigger than them?
Yep. We created meditative prayers at Pray.com.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because we knew that that was a trend, right? Especially in California, where I'm from, like
big time.
Everyone's spiritual and they want to tell you how spiritual they are. And, you know, we knew that there is a way for us to also make the content in a way that they are used to consuming it. So we've made meditative prayers. You know, I think people want to say they're spiritual. What they're basically telling people is like, I'm a good person.
Right.
And I'm going to do things that are going to be healthy. And there's nothing healthier than reading Bible-based content. And if you haven't been exposed to it, you don't know. And so that's why Praise on a mobile app. We have 100 million shares of our content. 100 million.
That's a lot.
So every time you share that out, that's going to somebody else that's getting exposed to it, maybe for the first time, which, you know, we have hundreds of thousands of testimonials of exactly that happening.
One thing I was impressed about on the app was the amount of leaders that are on there and how they can connect with their communities. How does one become a leader on Pray.com?
Yeah, so number one, you got to create content. So if you got a church service and you're not creating digital content, it's very difficult for us to get that out in the world because you can only have the audience at your physical church. So do you create content? And what type of content do you create? So for us, video content, we have video content in our app. So we have a video streaming platform. We have a radio streaming platform. Maybe you're on radio. Maybe you're on Christian radio. If you've got a Christian radio broadcast, it may make sense to be on Pray.com. If you have a TV broadcast, TV ministry, it may make sense to be on Pray.com. We also make podcasts. So let's say, maybe I'm not the best at creating content, but Pray.com, we have a great bunch of stories. We have a great bunch of series, and they're all different types of series. Kids Bible content, we have bedtime Bible stories. If you want to put your name to it and be a host of it, great. We'll get the voiceover actors and the great content creators to actually say the words for you. No problem. So there's a bunch of ways to do it. For Pray, we've really seeded the content around the biggest ministries on the planet. So, we're selective right now. We're taking on just the big mega church platforms. They tend to have more resources, and, when you have more resources, you can create really great content. So that's kind of where we started.
I was thinking about, I just watched Jesus Revolution on a flight recently, and I thought I wasn't even really aware of what happened, but these unconventional methods that we are engaging people and not shutting them out seems to be the way of the future. And between that, The Chosen, its unlikely success, you're creating a sphere, I think, for people to get more involved. So I remain very optimistic, and I'm sure you guys are too, by seeing the amount of engagement.
Yeah, I think if you just look at the testimonials that we see in the app stores, just go there and read them, and you see what people are saying about it. They see that I go to the app every single morning to get your daily devotional. We have a noon devotional. We have a nightly devotional too. And so the amount of engagement with our content is also proven by the 100 million shares out. And so, it'd be pretty depressing if we made this app and no one used it. It'd be pretty depressing if no one was sharing it. And so what's incredible about technology is we can make this better. Like, it's kind of like assembling a plane midair. Like, you can still make this thing better. That's what we're doing. We're making the platform better. And, 12 months from now, I don't know what's going to be next for Pray. I mean, I have some ideas, but, it may be in a different form. AI is a big thing now. How can Pray.com use AI? And we have some thoughts to make people enjoy the content better, make it more personalized.
Are you concerned at all about, this is available in the Apple App Store as well as Google, are you concerned at all about any pushback from the secular community to stop what you're doing?
100%. 100%. The reality is shadow banning, it's a real thing. People are being pushed off platforms all the time. We want to be a safe haven for us. When you bring your content to Pray.com, we're not trying to kick you off based on your message. So it's very important. I'd also say that, when you come from a biblical mindset, you're open to biblical teachings, and secular people don't understand it. And they don't understand why people would say what they do. And so it's easy to kick those people off. The reality is we're the majority. Christians in America are the majority. We need to start acting like it, It's time to play a little offense than defense and wait until things happen. Speak up. It's what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's encouraging. So, Mike, thanks so much for coming in and enlightening me on what Pray.com is all about. It's and people can get it anywhere, it sounds like, at least for the time being, God willing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate your time.
Appreciate it, Bo. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.